Can Disney Plus strike a killer blow in Australia's streaming wars?
And can the streaming giants dominate the new TV rating system? Vertical Hold is proudly sponsored by Casa Systems, taking Australian technology to the global market. Welcome to Vertical Hold, behind the tech news, where we talk to Australia's leading technology journalists to get the stories behind the news of the week. I'm Adam Turner, and I'm joined, as always, by Alex Kidman, a man who's happy to throw away the running sheet at this point and just argue for 20 minutes about whether or not Baby Yoda should be called Baby Yoda when he clearly can't be Yoda, or can he? Alex, what's your hot take on Baby Yoda?
Look, there may have been some kind of regrettable night between Yoda and Yaddle and one too many bottles of Tuscan Raider Chardonnay, but I think it's only fair to wait until the DNA tests are in. And until that time, I'm calling it ears because it does 98% of its acting with its ears, and without those ears, it's basically just a sentient avocado.
We're also joined once again by the king of streaming television, TV Black Box's viewer advocate, Steve Malk. Steve, welcome back to the show. Any word from Netflix yet on greenlighting your gritty Muppet Babies reboot set in the Star Wars universe with Baby Yoda?
I'm very disappointed, no. And just point of order, is his name Yoda or is his species Yoda?
His name's Yoda.
Tell us.
He's not. This my geek flag is flying high.
You started him, man.
You
started him. All right.
The running sheet's gone now.
Overtime this week, people. Yeah.
His name's Yoda because there is a female of his species called Yaddle who's in that regrettable first movie that George Lucas insisted he had to make.
Mm.
So he's not a Yoda species.
She wasn't in the Ewok Christmas special?
Ewok Christmas special.
Did you like the Life Day reference? I did like that.
It did not pass me, that's for sure.
And they were roasting the little guy.
Save it.
Yeah.
I have Salacious Crumb jokes to make later.
Great.
All right. So this week we're lifting the lid on Disney Plus, and we're looking at the new TV rating system, which could kind of pit Netflix and Disney up against 7 and 9. But first, let's look at the federal government's latest plan to keep us safe from cyber nasties. Alex, how is the government taking the fight to the hackers?
Well, look, Peter Dutton was on the warpath earlier this week with one of his favourite topics, security and privacy and...
Security.
Absolutely. And look, I don't want to get too much into the politics side of this. I want to get into the tech side of it, which is a code of conduct which is being drafted at the moment, a voluntary code of conduct, and I think there's some issues with that, which we'll get to in a minute, for IoT, Internet of Things devices, consumer and corporate. So when we say IoT, Internet of Things, we're talking things like smart speakers and those smart video doorbells and locks that you can get. Basically, any gadget that can be internet controlled, because oddly enough, whilst I don't generally agree with Peter Dutton on too many political points, here I think he's got a point, even though the implementation may have some issues, because the history of IoT security, it's not a happy one.
True, he does have a point, but do you trust him to actually know what he's talking about? It just seems to me like another one of the government saying, hey, we're doing something and being tough without necessarily understanding the technology or taking any responsibility for implementing it. It sounds good to say.
Look, I'm sure there is an element of it sounds good to say, and equally speaking, I don't know that Peter Dutton knows much about anything, actually, but I'm getting into the politics again, which is probably dangerous territory. I think the reality here, though, is this is a reasonably informed code of conduct. The principles it's built around are very similar to principles that they're already trying to enact in the UK and across several other countries as well. And they've got some reasonable points around things like mandating that a manufacturer shouldn't use an easily guessed password or a password across lots and lots of devices. I had to do this myself when I had my NBN connection put in. I looked up the manufacturer of the modem that my RSP had supplied because that way I could find the default password. That sort of thing shouldn't fly for an IoT device because you don't want someone else coming along and unlocking your front door while you're away.
So, Mr. Mulk, are you worried about the gadgets around your home spying on you, and do you think the government can save us?
No, and not a chance. I think that's the easy way to look at it, right? We don't have any super connected devices other than like our fetch box and laptops and, devices, those sorts of things.
No smart speakers?
No, we did try one for a little while and we just went, I mean, if it hung around a bit longer, we might have gone, maybe we could find a use for it, but we just didn't depend on it.
What I'm interested to know is that because this is a cooperation with our Five Eyes security partners, I'm assuming that this crackdown doesn't go as far as closing the actual back doors that the Five Eyes countries rely on to keep tabs on their own people. I'm assuming it's, not those flaws, but all the other flaws that we're cracking down on.
Well, this is where it gets really difficult, because you're right, it doesn't really address that. And let's face it, it was never going to. They're never going to say, but we've got to be able to spy on you, even though
Yeah.
fairly clearly that's what a lot of them want to do. The issues are more complicated than that, though, because it's not just the kind of high-end, high-brand speakers, so your Amazon or your Google smart speakers, for example, because those ones are, those ones, there's a reasonable company reputation, and
Yeah.
whilst they've had their security woes and flaws, and they still do, you can bet that they're going to put a bit of R&D into it. The issue is that, you can wander down to Kmart and buy smart light globes, for example. I've no idea who the end manufacturer on those is. You can go
the
online and
cheap-ass
find
ones.
1,000 other ones from Chinese factories. Who's going to be updating those, especially when this is a voluntary code of practice? And this is where I think as policy it kind of whips out. I think there's a very strong argument to say, yeah, perhaps there should be some actual penalties and some actual legal muscle behind this. By making it a voluntary code of practice, all it really means is that at some point in the future, your Google or Amazon's smart speaker box is going to have a little sticker on it that says, I adhere to these principles, whether or not it does and whether or not the penalties mean anything. Most people are going to ignore that the way they ignore every other certification, and everything else that you buy online is not going to have it at all. So, Adam, after an agonizing wait of a whole week, Disney Plus finally launched this week in Australia. Has the House of Mouse brought the magic?
Yes, it's all Baby Yoda all the time. I don't know. At first glance, it's like, wow, this is amazing. But when you dig below the surface, unless you're trying to entertain a lot of preteens 24/7, I'm not sure about its longevity. Steve, what do you think?
You have to be either a Star Wars fan, a Marvel fan, or a very dedicated Simpsons fan, or have smaller young people that are keen on your Disney Pixar stuff or some of the other content there to be really in early. Now, I fit at least 3 of those things. So Mickey got my money as early as I could give it to him Tuesday morning, and I do not regret a second of it.
Do you think it's got long-term value in it, particularly for once the kids go to bed? Is there that much for the grown-ups to watch once you work your way through the Marvel and the Star Wars stuff? I'm thinking that this is the kind of thing that families will sign up for over summer and then cancel when the school holidays are finished and come back on the school holidays when they'll get the most out of it.
Very likely, but that's the benefit of the a la carte, bump in, bump out, month to month scenario. I think that it is a pretty large library, but you're right. There's not heaps to necessarily keep mum and dad interested, though. At launch, they did have a bunch of originals content thrown in. Now, we will get to The Mandalorian, obviously, but there's a show on there hosted by Kristen Bell called Encore, which each episode is visiting a high school in America and finding the cast of a musical that they have run previously. And I don't mean last year, I mean 10, 15, 20 years ago, getting the cast back together and in a week getting them to stage that musical again. And of course, there's all the tears about, I used to love doing this and now I've forgotten it and I really found myself again. It is amazing. It is so, so fun. And that will have at least mums, if not mums and dads, sitting down and watching stuff together. But we also know Disney, in their wisdom, have announced here is the stuff that is coming. And that's just at launch. You would absolutely expect there'll be a whole bunch of new announcements that will come, I don't know, probably towards the end of the holidays for Australia to let us know where the things are going to land and what's going to pop.
I, for one, am keenly awaiting the announcement of a new Muppet series. They do have those little Muppet shorts, which are quite cute and adorable in their own way, but they are very much family-aimed kind of stuff. Although I wonder, like you, Steve, I kind of hit a few of their metrics for things like Star Wars and Marvel, but outside that series, which we're going to talk about shortly, I wonder if...
Baby Yoda, do, baby Yoda, do.
You're an evil, evil man, Turner. Haven't the Star Wars fans already bought the movies like 19 times on 27 different formats, including the Japanese laserdiscs? There's not so much appeal to me in those, although I suppose we should also note that we do get an entirely new version of Episode 4.
Yes. And look,
How
imagine
entirely new is it? Do they still blow up the Death Star? Like, how new is new?
Okay,
There's an
Volk, do you want to take
alternate
this one?
there's an alternate ending that is a little
Where
bit
the Russians
disturbing.
beat them to the moon? Or
Yeah, that's right. All of a sudden they get there and there's a guy in a kind of bison suit that's written the word "save me" in the bodies of his dead servants. Anyway, that's a Watchmen reference.
That is gritty, yeah.
Yeah. Look, it's slight, but there are some changes to A New Hope. Mind you, if you were the person that managed to hold on to your VHS copies of the original trilogy, I think you're the only person in the world that has the original cut of the film.
Yeah.
Look, there's a whole bunch of extras with each of the Star Wars films
McClunky.
that if you didn't buy them on DVD, and even if you did, they're probably not even on that for some of them. I mean, each film has extras, deleted scenes, even ones that they filmed in rehearsal and kind of they never went further with. So there's some fun stuff in that. Plus, just being able to watch the films on demand on all of your devices whenever you feel like it almost becomes a unique thing because Disney have been very, very cautious about letting not so much Disney, but certainly Lucasfilm, very, very cautious about letting these things out and about, particularly digitally.
Mm.
Look, they have, although actually, as a little side point to that, the digital extras are really weird if you go beyond Star Wars, because for some things they've got some great little outtakes and bits and pieces, which probably have been on DVDs in the past. For an awful lot of stuff, though, they just have like a 1-minute clip from a movie, and it seems to be chosen at random, even when those movies have actual trailers. It's really kind of half and half. It's not all that seamless in the way that you'd think a Disney product might be.
Oh, but I think that's the nature of, some of the clips that are cut in and out and those sorts of things as to how those things become extras that don't make a final edit. Now, I will offer...
No, these are clips from... this is just like a minute of the movie. There's a perfectly good trailer. You could watch it on YouTube. You could watch it anywhere else. Yeah. But if you look within the extras, especially for a lot of their legacy content, there'll be some great old cinema trailers for those, and there are, and I know there are. But you go into the extras for them, and they just have like a 1-minute segment. And it's often, even for some of those really classic movies, you'd think, right, I know exactly where they're going to grab it from. No, it just seems to be, someone's just decided, this bit. It's
anything
really
that said
random.
trailer, I didn't watch. I only jumped into stuff that said extras. But that's me, right? Now, if you're not a Star Wars fan, you're not a Marvel fan, sure. You may use your 7 days and go, yeah, it's not for me. Crazy people. You may also be holding off, for example, until The Mandalorian has finished its first season, and you then want to sit down and binge all 8 episodes, which, look, perfectly fine if you want to do that on the 27th of December. The only pain for me is going to become on the 28th of December when I go, well, I've watched it all twice now, and I've watched all of Lost in Space on Netflix. Can I have some more Mandalorian, please?
To me, that like we were saying before, I don't think there's enough depth for grown-ups after the kids have come to bed, because Disney's just too family-friendly. And the one thing that stands out is, while they've got all the Marvel stuff, Deadpool's been benched, and the X-Men movies, because they're just too adulty for Disney.
And no Spider-Man at this point, thanks, Sony.
No Spider-Man, but I'm assuming that's the thing with Sony.
Yeah.
Same as the Incredible Hulk, because that's Universal. I'm sure that's exactly why it's not there.
Yeah. But when you go, like the TV library, more than half of, probably 3/4 of it is aimed at preteens. When you go into the movie library, it's a bit more of a spread, but half of those movies are at least 30 years old, if not more.
Yeah, but
and if
some
you've been
of that
hanging
is the
out to
nostalgia
rewatch
kick.
some of it, but if you've been hanging out to rewatch Darby O'Gill and the Little People, then you're in luck.
30, 40 years ago, Disney was making some awful live-action movies.
There's a whole lot of
Their
stuff
Knobs and
in there.
Broomsticks is not horrible.
That's still in there. That's still pretty good. But
Computer
there's a
wore
whole
tennis
lot of
shoes,
stuff.
$1 Million Duck.
Yes,
I mean,
a very young Kurt Russell. You wouldn't inflict this stuff on your kids today. It has not aged well.
No.
And it's interesting that a lot of it has got may contain outdated cultural depictions written on it. And we all know what that's code for.
Racism.
Racism.
Actually, I wanted to dive in on that a little bit. purely because I happen to have a fairly large collection of old Warner Brothers cartoons. Warner Brothers, of course, in direct competition. When they put their stuff out, they actually put out a lot of their old, really hideously racist stuff, and like the World War II propaganda cartoons they did, all that kind of stuff. And Disney did some of that stuff too. They actually have a really good intro that they recorded for all of those for the DVDs with Whoopi Goldberg, where she talks for about a minute and a half on how, look, the attitudes in this are not acceptable now and they weren't acceptable then. But if we ignore them, then we ignore that they're part of the history. They lose their power in that way. Disney, it almost feels to me like Disney's just having a bit of an each-way bet here to say, oh, look, we want to say that there might be some stuff here that's a bit off, but we don't actually want to say that we were wrong. Whereas Warner's, I think, actually did a better job there in saying that. Although, having said that, there is stuff they don't have. There's no Song of the South, for example.
I know they've shied away.
They just decided they weren't going there at all. Yeah.
And look, that's not unreasonable, I think. I mean, the Song of the South didn't age well even when it was first aired. Though, I think that there's... let's jump forward, right? Let's go into 2050. And I think that there'll be stuff that we look at now that we might go, oh, this is okay. That they'll look at then and go, oh, no, it is not.
Baby Yoda, that's not cool.
Well, that's right, because those people now rule the universe. I look at things like Revenge of the Nerds as a film that in my teens was seminal. It was up there with Bill and Ted's and all of the rest of it. There is no way that Revenge of the Nerds is in any way cool.
It's broadly unacceptable. No, you're not wrong, but that's the thing. I think Disney is perhaps watering down the way it could say this stuff and make it clear that it was almost a little bit culpable in all of this. Although there's a sort of weird outlier in all of this, I think, in terms of we've talked about how family friendly they are. Because they've got The Simpsons on there, and leaving aside the fact that they ditched the Michael Jackson episode for fairly obvious reasons, there's an awful lot of stuff in The Simpsons which is actually stuff that you might watch after the kids have gone to bed.
It's so great.
True.
It's so great, but it's not, it's not on a par with something like Milo Murphy, which I'll quite happily watch because I'm a big kid, or any of the really younger kids' Disney stuff at all. But it's right there kind of in the mix.
And look, I think that the interesting thing around The Simpsons is I'm going to say I think it's the difference between we made it and we bought it.
Oh, absolutely.
They can wash their hands of The Simpsons because that's a Fox product. We bought that when we got 20th Century Fox. And obviously, we have inherited the same problem that America and the rest of them got with the launch that, those first 8-9 seasons of The Simpsons that are in 4x3 have been stretched and
the best seasons,
tops and bottoms cut off the frames. But Disney have already announced that come 2020, early 2020, they'll allow us to choose if we want to see it in 4x3 or the only option right now is 16:9.
It takes them that long to pull the tapes out of the cupboard?
Look,
it does.
I don't know how they've encoded it right, but it certainly sounds like they, instead of going, here's the episode, bang, and we'll just force it into it, someone's had to spend the time and reprocess it.
It's such a weird thing, though, because there was a US Simpsons-only streaming service, which Fox owned, which, of course, Disney assumed control of, which had proper 4:3 versions of these episodes. So it's not like they didn't have a streaming-ready, proper aspect ratio version of every single episode of the show ready to go.
Oh, and the saddest part of them, and I understand why they pulled the Michael Jackson episode, is that we don't get to hear Lisa, it's your birthday.
Yes. One of the other things that has stood out to me in terms of Disney being very sort of family focused is the fact that they've gone back to the traditional weekly drop rather than the dropping it all at once changes your storytelling. And when you get that and you combine that with the fact that it's a family friendly streaming service, a lot of people are complaining that The Mandalorian is just a little bit too simplistic and a little bit too cutesy. And I was thinking, I think you're being a bit harsh.
Jawas.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, people. Spoiler alert.
Come on. If you were going to watch The Mandalorian and you're listening to this podcast and you haven't seen episode 2, your loss.
Yeah. And that dude in the doorway, they pulled the Darth Maul on that guy.
2 minutes of the first episode.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But still, I can see like as soon as cutesy Yoda turns up, and my family started sort of making fun of it a bit at that point and calling out what was going to happen next. And we predicted pretty much everything that happened in the rest of the episode after that, because it was really just a bit formulaic. And I'm wondering if it's the people who complain the most are the ones who are so into the Netflix gritty Marvel way of doing things that they need those long story arcs. They need all that blood and gore. And if you try and make it a bit more kids friendly to them, it just seems like you're finger painting.
Yeah, but I think if we 2 episodes in, right? If we deconstruct the Mandalorian, there is a big story arc that's going to play over at least this first season,
Yeah.
and that is how did he go from being in a family to becoming a foundling and a part of the Mandalorians? What the hell is that whole tunnel of Mandalorian people all about?
Mm.
What's the issue around his Sigma, his Sigma, and the collecting the metal, the payment that he got that was then turned into his piece of shoulder armor, and that it's going to be used for other people? I have so many questions already. That
if they pull a Lost on us, I'm going to lose it.
Oh, well, look,
That's not okay.
We know they're not going
I
to,
want
right?
answers.
We know they're not going to. This is Disney's Lucasfilm. We're going to get some concise, tight story. I am enjoying that they don't feel the need to wrap everything up in a neat little bubble each episode. And they're keeping them pretty sharp. I mean, 38, 40 minutes is easy watch. Like, that's easy to sit down and check it out. But it's also dense enough that like I said, I've watched it a couple of times already. Each of them, there is stuff I'm picking up with each rewatch.
So, look, I'm not going to say that I didn't enjoy it, because actually I did, but it is a little, I think it's fair to say, it is a little bit fluffy, especially if you look at that second episode.
Yeah.
You could almost skip that second episode. You could literally go from, he finds young ears, I'm going to insist on calling it ears, because it's cute little ears.
Yodeling.
It's adorable.
Just don't get it wet after midnight.
Absolutely. But
Look at us,
he picks up ears. He could literally take off from space at that point. And in a straight narrative sense, you've not necessarily lost a lot. I enjoyed all the Jawa stuff. I enjoyed the episode. But it's a total
side quest.
It's a total fetch quest. If this was a Star Wars computer game, it's the fetch quest that you've got to do to get the egg.
I challenge that, right? Because what happens when he gets the egg is and although you may guess it, an important reveal into why there is a bounty on this, on the yodeling.
And
right?
my family totally called that.
Oh, for sure.
They even called there's going to be a big scary cave. We said that before you saw the big scary cave. That's how predictable.
There had to be a big scary cave.
Predictable is not necessarily bad, though. Predictable ain't bad. It can be fun.
My daughter is 13. My daughter is 13, and she turned to me and said, "Dad, there's always a big scary cave."
Bingo. It's like we haven't had, I've got a bad feeling about this, right? But
it's coming.
It's coming.
I'd be disappointed if that wasn't.
It's the Star Wars tropes, and we'll lean on. And this is the thing: if you are a casual Star Wars fan, or not even, you just watch it, you'll probably have gone, "Yeah, whatever, fine." If you're a hard Star Wars fan, you'll go, "I'm in 100%. I will forgive you everything."
See, I've already got a bad feeling about two things. One, that Salacious Crumb is now a kebab type, and two, that Life Day is now canon.
Oh, look, I think we should replace Life Day with Launch Day, but I'll go for that. Beyond that, though, don't forget that where this falls, and I do appreciate the attempt at the joke, where this falls in between episodes 6 and 7.
6 and 7.
Yeah, it places it in that marvelous spot where the First Order haven't yet risen. The Mandalorian, whoever he really is running around the Outer Rim and just doing some crazy stuff.
Jar Jar Binks.
Misa think no. But all and like the ship is really the first time we've seen this type of ship in the Star Wars universe. The fact that Nick Nolte's Ugnaught is so compelling. Like, you can't get a better sidekick / sort of dare I say it, alternate Master Yoda character. I have spoken.
Look, Nick, I think visually Nick Nolte's not aged well, obviously, but the other thing, actually, just on Disney Plus, skipping away from the Mandalorian for a second, that I wanted to talk about. Adam, you kind of mentioned the and Steve, you also mentioned the watch it on any device. That's not exactly true, though. Compared to some of the other streaming services, it's sort of a bit hit and miss about whether or not your set-top box is going to support it or your smart TV may or may not support it. I believe Samsung and Sony are the only ones who've come out and said, yes, we've got some models of smart TV.
LG, I think, is going to be in there as well.
But they've hit all of the key pointers at launch, right? Obviously, phone, tablet, PC, laptop, that whole shebang, simples. Xbox
And you can
One,
be sure that Fetch TV will be talking to them.
guaranteed. They would be crazy not to.
I've had so much reader feedback from people saying, "Oh, it's coming to Fetch. Can I get it on my Foxtel IQ box?" And it's like, I'm sure they're talking. But
Sure.
you know,
Will it work?
Disney
Will
loves
it work
money.
on my old TiVo?
Don't forget that just even today, time of recording, Foxtel have just announced that ABC iView have come to their new integrated interface. Now, we knew it was coming, but it's launched today. So now, watching Foxtel, you can jump into iView or jump into Netflix. I would, again, also guarantee they're having conversations with Disney so that happens, probably jumping ahead of Stan if they were even in the mix. But beyond that, PS4, Xbox One, you've got limited smart TVs, but it does have Chromecast support. It does have, I'll say, limited.
And AirPlay.
Yeah, or
AirPlay and Chromecast.
And Apple TV, but limited, like only newer models. I think it was Apple TV 4, wasn't it? And higher models.
It's basically that 4K model. It's actually what I've been using to watch a lot of content.
Yeah.
And man,
No, it works on the one before that. It works on the the one before the 4K, but still the most recent
gen,
one.
I should say.
Yeah.
You are right, Adam. My bad. But I was going to say, the problem with that app, at least, is it loves to crash. And I've tried switching to a Chromecast, and Chromecast would be the cheapest way to add it to your TV if you're thinking, hey, I want some Disney Plus. But Chromecast itself, as anyone who has ever casted anything ever to a Chromecast, can be very hit and miss, and you've got no real control to say, hey, make this work. You can basically switch it on, off, and switch it back on again and hope it works the next time.
I mean,
the Chromecast crapshoot.
Yeah. It won't surprise me to find it land on, the Amazon Fire Stick, to hear that it's coming to a broader range of smart TVs, to find out that there are other, apps and options. And like we've talked about, the Fetch and Foxtel integrations. Sure, if it happens in a month, 2 months, 6 months, I mean, whatever, Disney kind of don't care. They've got this stuff out there. It's just nice to have for us at this point. And while it is absolutely awesome to have it on your, for example, Fetch box to be able to go, right, here's the thing, click on Disney Plus, off I go, as you would Netflix, Stan, the others, I'm still going to sit down and watch it any other way that I want to watch it because I want to watch it and I've got it. It suits my lifestyle.
So, Steve, the TV ratings for me have always been a bit of a laugh in the last couple of years, the free-to-air ratings, as they try as much as possible to hide the fact that they're bleeding viewers. Now, they stopped releasing data in the last 12 months or so because they're working up to a new system called VOZ. Now, what's that all about, and how's it going to tie free-to-air and streaming together?
Look, you don't have to have two big black eyes and two big green pointy ears to understand that people are watching their TV in ways that aren't the terrestrial broadcast service these days. What we are seeing is that more and more people are accessing streaming services, catch-up services, and in saying that, even the TV networks own catch-up services. They're diving into them. And those figures form an important part of how well that show performs. So what VOZ, or Virtual Oz, coming from OzTam, the people who do the ratings now, is going to bring us is a more integrated approach. So it's not just the overnights, even though they have expanded that to give us +7, +28. You can get streaming numbers from VOZ, but only from the commercial and the ABC's catch-up systems who are tied into that. What this is going to give us is that holistic picture. So how well a show has performed based on the numbers it got on terrestrial TV, the amount of people that recorded it that may not have watched it yet, but then when they watch it, how that looks. So the number will change over time, as well as those who live streamed it and those who have accessed it only via the official catch-up services like your 9Nows and those sorts of things. That's a pretty big story to tell, and not one that is going to give us a satisfying number like we've used to be getting every day. The real picture isn't going to form until about 3 or 4 weeks after a show is aired.
But I would have thought the big advantage of this kind of thing is that it's going to be a significantly more accurate picture because, you look back in the way they've done this over the years and diaries that people would lie with and buttons that they'd press the wrong one because they didn't, back in the 90s, they didn't want you to know they were watching Chances or whatever, through to, slightly more
say it like it was a bad thing.
Look, the reboot's coming someday soon. I'm certain of it. But having this kind of these figures, in some ways, it feels like a very simple data collation exercise because surely an ABC or a 7, 9, or 10, any of those catch-up services, they can just go, right, well, the server got hit 50,000 times last night from 50,000 different IP addresses, so 50,000 people watched that. Surely that's
Sure.
a more accurate number. Yes, you don't get it straight away, but it's a lot better than that. Well, we think they got this percentage, and the boxes we've got said it was this.
Yep.
Therefore, 600,000 people were watching that show.
Yeah.
Can I give you the technical response to that?
Sure.
Yeah, nah. The problem for particularly streaming content is that it's obviously very different in its delivery mechanism. The way that the OzTam Nielsen box for people that have them at home works is that it acknowledges you've been watching from 7:31 till 8:52, and it knows because you've had to key the numbers in who, like the demographics of the people watching. There's a lady aged 35 to 48 or, whatever, that kind of thing. So it knows that stuff. The reason why all of these catch-up services want us to register is so they can get that demographic data out because bottom line, ratings are all about advertising. This is commercial television running large so that the networks can go out to, obviously your car manufacturers, your soap manufacturers, even your Netflixes, and say, you want to buy time to advertise your thing during this program, this time slot. Well, here, these are the eyeballs that are watching it, and these are the ways that they're watching it now. That's become super important in that sales cycle. So to be able to officially have that integrated aggregate number that they can say, right, here it is split up, but this is what it looks like altogether. That's key. Now, just also in the streaming situation, 50,000 people started streams of the latest episode of The Block. Sure, but how long did that stream last? How many people were watching that stream? What device was it watched on? Did it run for an hour or the length of the program? Or did it only last for 20 minutes? Or did they jump in, particularly in the live stream context, did they only tune in for the last 10 minutes? If 50,000 people started, but only 3,000 people finished, did 50,000 people watch it? Did 47,000 people watch it? Did 2,500 people watch it? Like those kinds of things become critical into how we transform and understand the metrics on our streaming, catch up, and live stream television.
But this new service isn't going to include your Netflixes and your Stans and your Disneys, is it?
Well, certainly not at this stage. They'd be keen to include them, absolutely. But as we understand, all of these, streaming services, as you mentioned, that's important, like internal data that they would rather only share when they wanted to. So to have it commercially available, and look, if they did it in Australia, it would be the first time anywhere that those services have agreed to have a common, kind of metric run across their content to be able to say this. Now, there are lots of analytics services around the world. I think of Parrot Analytics for one, who are effectively measuring streams of data coming, like not from IP addresses, but to IP addresses that they're then able to identify it's going to Netflix, it's picking up this stream, this show to be able to report on the kind of traffic that's going on. But to be brutally frank, it's not accurate. It's not as accurate as the kind of content that we get out of VOZ because the networks themselves are opening their services up for this scrutiny because A, they need to, and B, they want to.
Isn't the point there, though, that, and you're right, I mean, Netflix is very open. Well, it's not open with its data. It's very open about the fact that it collects all of this data. It's why it wants every member of your family to have a login so it can say, right, Alex watched, the entire season of BoJack Horseman, whereas his kids didn't. That's probably a good thing, by the way. But isn't the point here, though, that the commercial networks need this because they need the advertising, whereas Netflix doesn't, both because we give it that data anyway by signing up to the service, and it's not dependent on that kind of thing. What that makes me wonder about, though, is where we've got that hybrid in Foxtel.
Yeah. Oh, look. Well, Foxtel are a part of, the OzTam family. Like they want to have their data captured for exactly the same reason, and the way that they open it up allows them to not only sell content to advertisers, which whether you agree with it or not, that's what they do. But don't forget that the content that they're also gathering, and this is both through OzTam and certainly with VOZ, and absolutely with Netflix, is we know that this many women aged this watched these kinds of shows. So when we start to commission new things, let's do stuff that fits this demographic, because they hung around and they watched all of this, and we saw them watch multiple times. They watched this series. So if we give them another like that, or from the same kind of director, writer, producer organization, then we know we would expect these people to watch. Now, the only step up from that is, of course, Apple with their marvelously closed ecosystem don't just know who's watching, they know a whole bunch more data. So, for example, when my son...
They can monitor your heart rate while you're watching it.
That's right. Quite legitimately. My son, watches Netflix via Fetch. Now, he's got his own login. That's fine. But other than being classed, I think I even turned off the fact that he's a kid the other day. He's just he's a male human as far as they're concerned. There's no demographic data on him. But when he watches, say, the first episode of C on Apple TV Plus, because of family sharing, they know how old he is and his interests via his app purchases, to then be able to build a picture on him that they're not selling to advertisers, but they're using to give to app developers, and also a little bit to their own, well, let's build shows like this because we're going to get this age group of people wanting to see them.
Apple's an interesting case here, though, because they've got some fairly strong stated principles towards privacy. You're not wrong that they're building profiles of people, but I'm not so certain about the quantity of data sharing externally that they're doing. Certainly internally, yes, they know a fair amount about what you've done with Apple goods and services. But I think it's a slightly different thing to this kind of ratings tracking. What it does make me wonder in the longer term, though, is will this see, because we do see this huge shift towards more streaming services, and certainly I don't watch, I'll put my not visible to the listeners hand up in the air and say, I don't watch a lot of free-to-air TV as and when it's broadcast at all. Streaming is really just taking over the world. Are we going to see the end of people with those streaming boxes, those metering boxes in their houses?
Look, the answer is absolutely yes. At some point, we will see the end of the Nielsen box connected up to somebody's TV. However, when we see that, we'll also be seeing the end of terrestrial broadcast television. It's not an unreasonable thing once the government, and I don't want to start a whole other argument, once the government finish rolling out the NBN, and what that looks like for us.
We've got decades then.
Yeah, easily. But honestly, the transition from a over-the-air signal to a streamed signal into our homes that we get through our NBN connection, it could happen tomorrow, conceivably. It's not going to, but it could, which means that absolutely inside the next, 20, 30 years, when they realize that spectrum is worth more to the government than the $0 the TV networks are paying for it right now, watch it happen. It'll be forced upon them more than they have a choice to transform themselves.
Well, that just about wraps up another episode of Vertical Hold. Thanks to Steve for joining us for the show again. Now, Steve, if folks want to find you online, where can they do that?
Look, I'm on Twitter @SteveMolk. You can also follow all of our work via the @TV_Blackbox Twitter account. We have our Facebook page there. I'm on Insta, so is it. And of course, there's the TV Blackbox podcast you can tune into every week with its super nerdy television conversation, and tvblackbox.com.au to read it all with your human eyes.
Super nerdy, you say. I feel like that resonates with me somehow. And of course, as a listener, you can catch up with us on Twitter @BabyYoda. No, wait. Sorry. You can catch up with us on Twitter @VerticalHoldAU.
He's winning.
Or via the Vertical Hold Facebook page.
We'll be back this time next week, same bat time, same bat channel. This week actually marks 6 years since we kicked off the podcast talking about the launch of the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One.
Wow. Yeah. You guys are old.
Thanks for noticing. We've racked up a few frequent flyer miles since then. It's not the years, honey, it's the mileage. So thanks everyone for joining us on the ride. It'd be great to hear from you on social media, to see your reviews on your podcasting platform of choice, and to get a shout out to help us find new listeners and spread the good word. Vertical Hold is proudly sponsored by Casa Systems, taking Australian technology to the global market.
$10 to whoever gets the most Yoda references into this one.
Done.
Done.